Yeah, so as we looked at these acquisitions, one of the things that we were really excited about was that a lot of the technology that we had been developing over many decades actually is what's required to make autonomous platforms work. So as we look at the DOT platform specifically, there's a number of components that are on that platform that'll provide the communication technology, guidance and steering in the application and machine control. It's the same with AutoCart. Our camera-based technology, like we use today with our Vision launch in the market, radar technology that we've used on our AutoBoom technology, those are all technologies we can bring over and marry with autonomy and make this technology suite work more rapidly and more effectively in the marketplace. As we look at where the world's going and the shortage of calories and proteins that we expect over the next couple of decades, farming has to become more efficient. We don't have the opportunity to add a lot more additional arable land, so each acre that we put into farming has to be the most productive it can be and the most efficient it can be. Farmers are always also under a lot of pressure economically with the low cost of their outputs, so they have to be more efficient just for that reason as well. So that's the underlying reason why we think autonomy needs to come and needs to come now. Now, in terms of why Raven now, Raven has a full suite of existing technologies in our core that make autonomy work, that makes autonomy effective, and we can bring it more quickly to market. So the marriage of those two reasons is why we think it's the right time for Raven to invest.
Hi, I'm Willie Vogt with Farm Progress, and I'm excited today to be a part of our Autonomy Showcase in the Farm Progress virtual experience. The next half hour, we're going to give you a deep dive, a walk around of the DOT technology platform from Raven Autonomy. It's a unique piece of equipment, so stick around and watch as you learn more about what powers it, how it works, and all the features that are already part of this machine and more features to come. Now, I'm going to host this today, but I'm going to be behind the camera, so that's my voice you'll hear. So join me and Kyle Menson, who's the test engineer with Raven, for a good look at the DOT.
So I'm Kyle Menson. I'm with Raven Industries. I'm the lead test engineer on the DOT project. Basically, what we've got here, what we're looking at is the DOT U-shaped autonomous platform. We're using our new leader spreader that we've got loaded on here. So in our demo today, we did an autonomous mission around this field where we put some P&K down on the progress grounds. And so we'll do a quick walk around. So starting off, we've got our main control center here. So this is essentially your keys, your ignition, and other common functions. So you can control your hydraulics, your implement hydraulics, engine RPMs, things like that. And then something that will be familiar to farmers is our CR7, the Raven CR7 field computer. This is the same field computer that they're going to use in their tractor. So if you had a tractor pulling a new leader spreader, you would be controlling it with the exact same computer. So I think it's kind of make the farmer feel at home. It's the exact same controls, exact same layout. It's going to be very familiar to them. General overview of the machine itself. Up there behind the DOT panel is where we've got kind of where all the magic happens. That's where all of our controllers are, all the computing, all the path planning, the steering and everything goes up into that corner of the machine. Then we move into the second panel. That's where we have the 4 individual hydraulic pumps. Each wheel has its own hydraulic pump, so that allows us to do both wide and narrow mode travel. We can do front wheel steer, rear wheel steer, and all 4-wheel steer. Typical operation is all wheel steer. You get tighter turning radius, a little bit better control. And then after that, we have our Cummins engine. We've got a 173 horsepower engine in here right now. And then we've got our oil cooler and our 80-gallon fuel tank and def tank on the back of that. So that's really the meat of this side. And then I guess we've got up on top our Raven RS1 guidance controller. So that is where we get our GPS from. We've got our DB1 software on there, and that the DB1 is what controls the autonomous mission. And that is a lot of the technology on here is shared amongst the Raven autonomy platforms like the Smart Ag AutoCart. Moving to the front of the machine, something that's very quick and easy when it comes to unloading the machine. It's one of the quicker detachments of any implement because you don't have a million different hoses and cables. Everything's just off of this quick connect, and you've got your ISO and power cables, so just a matter of seconds there to unload it. Some other things that you'll notice up front, on this particular model we have a safety fence, so if I was standing here and this machine moved, this is going to bump me and it's going to stop the machine on a dime. What we're developing now is to implement the perception system where we will have cameras mounted up on top of the machine and radar underneath to give a three-dimensional view of what is going on around the machine. So that will allow us to respond dynamically to as it's moving through the field. It's going to see a person, it'll be able to avoid a person if there's nothing else for it to do. So right now that is being developed with the Auto Cart project, and once this machine gets back to Sioux Falls with us, it is going to get that perception system implemented on that. And with this specific project, like I said, we can travel in narrow mode, which is the configuration we're in now. Otherwise, we can turn it into wide mode with our seater. So since we have two forward directions, essentially, we need to have two perception systems that are active on the system to get both directions. So we will have essentially double what we use on the Auto Cart to make sure we have all of our directions covered.
So when you say wide mode, does that mean the wheels turn completely around?
Yep.
I mean, I noticed that they're on a gimbal system. Or
correct. So on the handheld remote, otherwise you can do it on the computer too. You just switch your drive mode and all four wheels will begin to pivot on their own individually. It takes about 15-20 seconds for it to change modes, and then you're ready to go in the other direction. So if you just needed to back it into a really tight spot in the shed, you can do quite a bit with those different modes moving around. So
since it's a autonomous unit, it doesn't have a cab, it doesn't have HVAC, it doesn't have all that stuff added to it. Does that make it a simpler machine to maintain, or because of all the brains, does it still have some of the same issues?
I think to me it would be simpler to maintain. Obviously we've got an engine and hydraulic pumps, and then you've got your controls, your software and everything. But the nice thing of all the software is everything is over the air. So if you've got an issue, you just call your service provider and they will be able to log into the machine, help you out. You can do all of your software updates over the air. So you can do that all from your desk or from your couch, really.
So we have video, obviously, of this coming apart. Essentially, this is a cartridge system. You say it's U-shaped. We're on one side with the engine. Let's walk on around and see the rest of the U, maybe? See how that all works?
So this is the front part of the U. So this part of the iron is the DOT platform itself. And then this tube that has the wheels connected onto it is the other part of the U. And then everything on the inside where you see the spreader is on its own chassis, and it is just connected into the U-shaped platform by what really is similar to a quick coupler on a tractor. So there's two quick couplers on it, one in the front of the implement, one in the back. They will connect together and they'll lift the implement into place, and there's dowel pins on every corner to help align the implement. And each one of our implements has the exact same hookup when it comes for the quick connect and the dowel pins. So everything's the exact same, so you can just drop this one, move over, and you can pick up our Pattison sprayer. Otherwise you can go and pick up the Seedmaster seeder. They're all the exact same, so there's no changes that you have to do to change your machine configuration other than unhook it and move into position to hook up the other one.
What's the benefit of going autonomous, really? I mean, what is Raven thinking? I mean, they purchased this platform, but what's the benefit to the farmer of getting rid of a driver?
So the obvious answer there would be, labor. It's very hard to find good skilled labor, people that you're going to trust. And so when a farmer would adopt the DOT system into his operation, some of them might feel that they're losing control because they're giving it up to this system, but really, in reality, they're gaining control because it's not somebody else that's running this.
So this actually did stop when it ran out of product. It came to a complete stop when it was done applying.
I did that on my own just because I didn't want to keep moving without product on
Would
it.
it stop without product in it?
It gives you an alarm so you can set the level. I call it the severity of the alarm. So you could give it a high level or a low level. So right now it's just set to a low level so it would keep going. But you could change that to a high severity where it will cause a stop.
Okay. So there's a lot of flexibility in the program.
Yep, a lot of user control, a lot of operator control, a lot of operator configurable controls, and you can do that all right here on the machine. Otherwise, you can do that remotely on the tablet that controls it.
So that it comes with a tablet.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, and that's Raven software or DOT software? Raven.
Yes. Yep.
But you're enhancing that software, right? That's part of this acquisition.
Correct. Yep. So, me as a test engineer, my job is to I test all of the software versions. So right now I'm in the middle of testing everything that will be going to the field this fall up in Western Canada for their applications and stuff that will be used in Texas, California, Louisiana this winter. So I test all of that. We've got our software to plan your path. That's on the tablet. That's what we call GCS. We've got DB1 software, RS1, and RS1 software. That's kind of the steering and the control. And then we've got RPG, which is really the kind of the heartbeat of the DOT platform. So all of the software that's on this machine, we are continuously improving it, making it better, bringing improvements. We hear all kinds of feedback from customers, from engineers themselves. Just for example, myself, I operate this thing every day, so I've got a lot of ideas that come up of just like, it would be nice to have this button here. So it's nice that, you know, I can bring it to the developers, we discuss it, and then, you know, I could have it there that afternoon already. So we're very quickly moving this forward, improving it, bringing new features on board, listening for new features. And
so it's 170 horsepower tractor?
173 horsepower engine in this. I believe our 2021 model year that we're working on right now, we're working to get up to a tier 5 200 horsepower engine on there. A little bit redesign on the hydraulics to have more efficient hydraulics, less demand on that, better cooling on the hydraulics and everything.
Anything that a farmer should know about this if they're thinking about this machine? I mean, how would it fit in my operation? Can I run this in the same field as me running a tractor doing a similar thing? So can I be planting and this be planting in the same field?
Yep, so that is specifically for the DOT platform. That is something I'm going to be working on after this show, is getting the job sync functionality onto DOT platform. So whether it be, you know, a tractor, another operator that's out there in the field spraying or spreading, they can be working alongside of a DOT, and both coverage is going to be shared between the two machines. Section control will transfer between both machines, and the same thing, you could have a fleet of DOTs in the field and they're all going to work together. So we're working on that. We're bringing that up here. As for why this could be attractive to a farmer, right now we've got the new leader spreader, we've got the Pattison sprayer, and we've got the Seedmaster seeder. Those are all readily available. So we've got 3 really good products that are used, you know, throughout the whole season when it comes to, you know, you're putting in your small grain with the seeder, then you can spray it with the sprayer, put your fertilizer down, and then in the winter you can use the seeder again to put your cover crop down. You can use your sprayer to do a burn off or something like that. So a good variety of implements right now that helps the ROI on it. I think Wade said for under 700,000 you can have the entire system, all 3 implements plus the DOT. So when you're thinking of, you know, one of the big self-propelled sprayers, you're almost at $500,000 when you've got all the controls with that. So that's $500,000 for an engine, a cab, HVAC system, you know, your comfy seat with the heated and air conditioning in there. That's all fine and dandy to have, but you're only limited to spraying with that sprayer. You can't do seeding, you can't do fertilizer spread or anything like that. So the ROI on this is looking really promising, and we're trying to, you know, figure out some other implements that would really complement and which ones we should tackle first to really complement the line that we've got going right now.
But you're moving pretty fast. I mean, obviously, Seedmaster, when they designed this product, have come a long way. But Raven taking it on, you took it on, it's a priority. And I know the prairie is where you're really going to focus right now because that's where the tools work. But farmers are going to see some pretty big changes in the next 3 or 4 years, 2 or 3 years?
Right.
Okay.
Right, yeah. Things are, the way things are looking, you know, I feel like everybody's starting to dabble in this autonomy. They're trying to take the operator out of the cab and give them as much focus on their farm rather than running a steering wheel, running hydraulic levers. They're trying to give the operator, the farmer, the most time possible they can spend improving their operation rather than spending time sitting in the cab. And then I think the other big question is, you know, what's the cost and why would I take something like this into my operation?
That's a nice synergy though for Raven to bring the smart ag tech onto this machine too, rather than reinventing the wheel.
Yep, and it's going both ways. So we're bringing smart ag onto DOT, and we're putting some DOT onto smart ag, and there's some other projects that we work on that, you know, smart ag did part of it. We got part of it from DOT, and we're just bringing everything into the Raven platform. So we've got a lot of tools in our toolkit that are really, you know, modular and pretty simple to implement on something new. Try something out.
You know, you talked about 24-hour operation, and there's a magic word that whenever anybody says that with automated systems that pops into my head. That's the word to tend, the phrase to tend. How do I tend to this at 2 in the morning? I mean, is it going to alert me that it's empty? Do I want to care? Do I want it to park?
Yep.
I mean, when I talked to the developer of this a couple years ago, he said, even if it just plants 10 hours more or 5 hours more than you would have planted, and then it stops, you still picked up those 5 hours.
Right, yeah.
So is that how guys are looking at this too, and maybe they won't tend it 24 hours a day, or is that something that's going to evolve?
Yep, something we're looking at developing is actually, you know, predicting when you need to tend to it. So obviously we've got scales on this, and we know how much we're putting down, so we can calculate how far in the field we're going to get. We can, with our path planning, we can almost calculate the exact spot we're going to run out of product. So we're trying to figure out how to optimize, you know, with a bit of a safety buffer. I don't want to run empty, and I don't want to drive over, you know, some of these fields can be huge. I don't want to drive a mile to a tender truck. I want to find the quickest point to a tender truck. So we're working on develop that to be completely autonomous where, hey, I'm about out, I need to go to my fill station, I'm going to go there, and you can, something like that will alert you and be like, hey, we are going to need to load in 15 minutes. So that's your signal to get in your tender truck and head out there. And hopefully DOT will be waiting right there for you to load it up, and then you'll just push resume and it'll go back right where it was.
So it might not be empty when it's time to tend it. It might be the most logical stopping point near the tending point to tend it. That's cool.
Yep.
That's
so
cool.
There could be, you know, yeah, we could have covered 3 more acres, but we had to cover 8 acres to make a round, you know. Yeah. So we don't want to head half a mile that way just to pick up and head back this way a couple minutes later.
Any other questions farmers are asking about this? I can anticipate some ideas, but I just wonder what you've been hearing.
I don't know what I've been hearing from, you know, the farmer myself. I'd see this and I'd wonder, you know, is it safe? Like, how can I trust that this thing's, you know, what's going to protect me from being around it? You know, as I've been here at the show, everybody has come up to me and asked, like, can I get close to it? You know, like they're scared of it. But like I said, with the perception system and everything, that's going to enhance our safety. This is an autonomous vehicle, but the operator from right here has the ability to kick anybody else out of control from right here. So I can block any control while I'm standing right here from any other, you know, device that's trying to control it. I can stop it from here. We've got emergency stops around the system. This one's got the safety fence that's going to be replaced with the perception system. The handheld remote has an emergency stop on it, and that's got a 1/4 mile range on that, so it can be clear over there and I can hit this remote and it's going to stop on a dime there. On the tablet remotely, you can tell it to stop where it comes to a controlled stop, or you can give it an emergency stop where it's going to just come to a halt right there. So I'd say safety is the absolute top priority when we're developing this. definitely keep that in mind as we're going through all of these software checks. So every time I do a test on it, I have my list of safety tests that no matter what we change, like I could change the format of the clock on this to be a 24-hour clock instead of a 12-hour clock. I'm still going to hit every one of those safety tests just to be sure that all of our safety mechanisms are still in place and that we did not hinder that in any way.
I was impressed. We obviously took it apart and separated these two systems and how that locked out. And it was funny because you drop the legs and they seem too short. It actually does lower it.
Yep.
The way that it latches in and out is very interesting.
Yeah.
I think the whole concept of the cartridge system was a surprise when I first saw this unit a couple years ago. Never saw it in person till today, but to see drawings and see video of it is pretty interesting. Are farmers surprised by that design and say, well, why didn't we think of that before? Or how, or is it just, that's just another iteration of what can be a robot?
So everyone has been extremely impressed on how quick and how simple it is just to switch implements. Having the Raven controller, we are very confident in our system. Obviously, we've got complete control of our system, development control, all of that. It's a very strong, very robust system, so we can do a lot of stuff with our RS1 and our DB1 software, and just the accuracy and the amount of power and brain power that's behind that system. I think that's probably the big reason why they chose to put it on our autonomous systems.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Kyle.
You bet.
Well, that was cool. I'm Willie Vogt with the Farm Progress Virtual Experience, and I hope you enjoyed our look at the DOT Technology Platform from Raven Autonomy. Stick around now for some breakout sessions this afternoon, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and be sure to come back tomorrow when we're going to have more field demos and we kick off our ride and drives here at the Farm Progress Virtual Experience.